Hey, what's up everybody? It's Kellen here from Start Your Systems again, and welcome to another MX Simulator official track gameplay round number 5 of the 2018 Pro Motocross Championship, Muddy Creek. And we are out here to do some business today. We're going to ride this track. I got a road on 10 again, just like the High Point video. I'm going to show off this track a little bit, talk about how it raced in sim, how the EMF track crew did, and then break down some Muddy Creek recap from the real life nationals, which this is going to be like a rapid reaction video. So I just watched the nationals. It's, let's see, an hour and 10 minutes after they happened. So I'm not going to be fully probably up to date on every single thing that's happened, because this video is probably coming out on a Tuesday, and I'm sure that there will be some news and updates about the events that happened over this past weekend that I won't be able to share with you guys. But I just wanted to, like I said, give like a rapid reaction video to it all and give my thoughts and opinions on it. But first, we're going to talk about this track. I thought it raced really well in MX Simulator, the MX Simulator Pro Motocross Series that runs on Wednesday evenings. They did a pretty good job, I feel like, the track crew, of working with the hosters and figuring out a road amount that's going to work as the race goes forward. So they used, I think they used 1.2 for 250 Moto number 1. And then 250 Moto 2, they brought it down to 1, and people were still complaining that it was a little bit much. And if you've never seen the MX Simulator Pro Nationals before, the 250 class races back-to-back, so Moto 1 and Moto 2, and then there's a short break, and then the 450 class races back-to-back, Moto 1 and Moto 2. And they do that so that 450 guys can, not have to watch all the 250 races, and then they grab the UIDs separately and all this business. And they reset the track every time, so a road being on 1 means that it's exactly like every single rider that rides through a section of track, essentially to the power of 1, affects the way that the track erodes. So at 1, guys still felt like it was a little bit too much for that 250 class, so they changed it to 0.7, I believe it was, for the 450 race. And I thought that one was actually the best all night, but they actually lowered it to 0.5 for the last 450 race, and people seem to like that one a lot too. So I don't know, like I said, I thought it raced pretty well. Some people still had a couple complaints about the erode, especially in the 250 class, like I said, but 450 wise, I really thought it came together well. And as always, I feel like this track was really well built. You're gonna see it's actually quite a bit bumpier than some of the past rounds that we've covered. They worked on the erode so that the bumps affected it a little bit more, and the ruts weren't as deep and gnarly, I guess. I don't know. I thought it was a good product, good racing product, and I enjoyed it. So yeah, let's go ahead and break it down. Real life Muddy Creek wrap up. Like I said, rapid reaction to this. This is about the closest to the race just ending that I've done a video almost ever. But moving apartments tomorrow, which is going to be Sunday, so I don't have a whole lot of time to devote to making videos and all that. So getting a little bit ahead of schedule. And yeah, that Muddy Creek race was interesting. Let's just say that. I'm going to open it up with 450s because I feel like 450s had the least interesting stuff going on with it. Kind of another, I don't know, like I just feel like that whole day for the 450 class was pretty typical of what to expect. Like nothing really jumped off the page as like, wow, I can't believe such and such happened. I'd say my biggest surprise of the 450 class was actually Barcia. Barcia looked really like comfortable all day running up front. In the first moto even, Roczen got the early lead, and Holeshot then got the early lead. Tomac was stalking him, and Barcia was like kind of catching the group a little bit. I think he just didn't want Eli to get going and leave him and everybody else in the dust. So he tried to stick with them. Kenny got past, and then really quickly after Kenny got past, Barcia passed Kenny as well and moved into second. And actually for a little while it seemed like Justin was going to reel in Tomac for the lead, and then Tomac kind of turned it back up and kind of dispelled any of that happening. But it was still a really good ride, I felt like, for Justin. Like, you just don't it's been a while since we've seen him like actually run, comfortably so the pace of the front guys, at least outdoors. He's been good all year, no doubt, but I wouldn't say that he was on Tomac or Roczen or Musquin's level per se until this weekend. So the first moto I was definitely a little bit impressed. Picked up a second, beat Roczen. Musquin fell 3 corners in, so I think he was probably the second best guy on the day, to be honest, behind Tomac, but he had to go from almost dead last to 5th in the first moto. That kind of ruined him for later, which the second moto, Tomac got a terrible start. It was again another Roczen hole shot. I think Barcia was second, and then Barcia pretty quickly got into the lead around Roczen, and then it kind of got interesting because bad start for Eli. Barcia gets into the lead, and Eli's nowhere in sight, and you're like, oh well, 2-1. No matter what happens, Barcia's gonna win the overall. And then here comes Marvin, gets around Roczen, starts going after Barcia pretty quickly, and I feel like he didn't take that long to get around him. Like he kind of hawked him for a little bit, stayed right behind him, made him think about it, and then picked a spot and got him really nicely in the first corner after the mechanics area. You go through the mechanics area and then come back across the start straight, which I'll point out in just a second. Really nice like cut under move, like got into the corner, brake on the brakes hard, used the rut that was there as a really good embankment and just flew right down the inside of Barcia. So he came up into this corner essentially, and Barcia was like taking the normal line, but Marvin like cut right here and came across his line, and I don't know, good pass. And then Marvin was pretty well like gone from there, like opened up a good gap pretty quickly, and Barcia didn't have much of an answer for it then. Later in the race, Barcia started coming back to him, but I feel like Marvin like kind of responded and was like, nah, I got this, like I'm good, don't worry about me. So all in all, I felt like it was a strong ride for Marvin, like another day that shows that like he's definitely pace-wise kind of going to be in this championship, at least giving Eli some fits moving forwards, which I like. Like I said, I mean, Eli can win the rest of the motos from here for all I care. But just I'd like to see battles. I don't like one particular guy taking the wins and just cruising it home. And in that second moto, Eli had to work for it. Got a bad start and eventually crawled his way into third late in the race and got to Barcia, and it looked like, oh, he's on fire. He's going to rip through Barcia and maybe even have enough time to get to Musquin out front with the pace he was running and such. But I think he kind of cooled down because he realized, oh, I could go 1-3, win the overall, pick up points on Barcia, who's not even second in the championship, and Musquin going 5-1 would actually lose 4 points to him on the day. So I think he kind of checked up a little bit, relaxed, and like I said, that's when Barcia seemingly caught fire anyway. Started reeling in Marvin a little bit. And unfortunately, Barcia, a good 2-2 performance, looked like it could have gotten him the overall, but Tomac's great charge through the field prevented that from happening, and Barcia goes 2-2 for second, Tomac goes 1-3 to win, and Musquin goes 5-1 for third. I think Roczen overall went 3-3 for fourth. If I'm thinking, no, 3-4 for fourth? Yeah, that's what that would be. And Baggett went 4-5 for fifth. Kind of all over the board, I guess. But yeah, like I said, pretty straightforward 450 race. Like all the same guys ended up in the top 5 both motos. Pike looked good, but I just don't think that Pike's quite the pace of the top 5 right now. And yeah, I don't know, like nobody else really jumped off the page. It's like, wow, that was kind of crazy. But I wanted to leave a lot of time allotted for this 250 race, which was weird, to say the least. I mean, I don't think it gets much weirder than someone maybe finishing 3-5 to win the overall, or a 12-1 could have won the overall. I mean, it was wildly all over the board. And it all started, so I feel like the first moto was kind of a glimpse into like what Jeremy Martin was wanting to get accomplished. Plessinger gets the whole shot. Martin is 4th or so, and Plessinger crashes like 2 corners in, same spot that Marvin crashed actually in the in the first 450 moto. It's kind of like a little bit of a copy going on there. But so Plessinger drops back to, I think he was like 15th, and it wasn't long before A-Mart was leading, and J-Mart was on him for the lead, so another little Martin Bros battle, and J-Mart got around him and kind of just took off, like clicked into another gear, And the J Mart you expect to see, I would think, outdoors is what you saw in that first 250 moto from Muddy Creek. Took AP a while to get going, and even when he did, it wasn't like he really got going. I think he finished ninth. It was 8th or 9th the first moto, behind Chase Sexton, who he was like stalking for most of the race but couldn't get to. So the first moto was, let me think, get this right. J Mart, then Cooper, Justin Cooper. Shane McElrath was in 3rd. RJ Hampshire 4th. 5th was, Jordan Smith maybe? I think Jordan Smith was 5th in the first moto. It was just all spread out. Like I said, Plessinger got like 8th or 9th. Crucially, Alex Martin and Dylan Ferrandis finished 12, 11 respectively, but Ferrandis 11th, Martin 12th. And I say crucially because let's go ahead and jump into the second moto, which is about the most like heart-wrenching, weird race I've seen in the 250 class in a while. And it starts off with another A-Mart hole shot surprise, and Ferrandis is right with him, and it was Cantrell, I think, out front as well, another TLD KTM guy. And about mid-pack, 4 corners in, on what I kind of affectionately named the stew table, because he scrubbed past Mike Alessi amazingly there like 4 or 5 years ago. I'm coming up to it though. So after this finish line, you come out of this corner. Jeremy Martin's on the left side of the track, right? Comes out of the inside corner right here, ends up far left side of the track, and he takes off like right about here. And Justin Cooper very slightly like kind of came over on him. Just, first lap total incidental stuff. Not Cooper's fault at all, but definitely was an instance where he came over a little bit more than J Mart was going towards the center, I would say. And Cooper looks over in the last minute. You can see them like just kind of collect their wheels together on the landing, which is always really tricky because of the way that the angles like hit the tires there, and it just kind of spits them off in really bad angles. And Martin crashed flipping hard. They didn't have a really good view of it on TV, but they had J Mart's Garmin Verb camera, 360 camera on, and they replayed it a couple times on the TV broadcast. It was a big get off, and it was really looking scary there for a while. Reports from the side of the track from people standing there, some media and stuff like that, was that he was down holding his back and unable to move his legs, which obviously real scary because motocrossers know the danger of paralysis when it comes to crashes in motocross. Like, I would say people get paralyzed from motocross crashes more than any form of motorsport, or even probably like football and stuff like that. So kind of was like, oh my god, I really hope that's not the case. Like, sucks that Martin's season might be over, but it would suck even more if his career's over from a crash like that, just because it was so random, weird, and you never want to see anybody's career over, but just the way that whole thing happened, everybody's kind of stomach dropped, and I'm like rolling through Twitter feeds and just trying to find any minute update I can, because I wasn't at the race, so it's not like I could walk over and see him getting loaded onto the mule and watch myself if his feet are moving. But report is, and I'm sure there will be an updated report by the time this video comes out, so I could be either way off the mark, or it could be, the good signs that I've been hearing, but is that he was awake, he was alert, and by the time they were in the ambulance, he was moving all limbs and doing okay. Obviously, it sounds like a back injury, but that was a huge relief to hear. By the end of the moto, they had an update on him, and it's that was the update, and so that's the good news. I hope it stays that way. If his season is over, that's unfortunate, but man, oh man, I really hope that he's not paralyzed or, seriously injured to the point that, it further affects his career or his livelihood, because, that's a life-changing event, not just a career-changing, but a life-changing event to, unfortunately get paralyzed in a racing incident like that, as we've seen with many riders over the year. Jesse Nelson, pretty much the most recent one that we can point to, is great rider, multiple Supercross wins to his name, a GP win, a couple outdoor wins, I believe, and got paralyzed 2016 Unadilla. And I've read a little bit about him too, and it's just been so life-changing for him. So hopefully, like I said, the good news is in on J Martin. We can not have to worry about that being an issue. But like I said, big scare there at the beginning of the moto, and like I said, it kind of took my mind off of the rest of the moto, which actually ended up being a pretty dang good moto. Amart led forever, 30 minutes in, but he had pressure from Ferrandis the whole entire time, and that's why I said it was crucial they finished where they did, because for a while that battle for the lead was actually a battle for the overall, because everybody else was so strewn across. Like I said, Plessinger, I'm just gonna assume it was 9th in the first moto, because a 3rd and 8-3 I think would be to 112, but he was in 3rd, and he was not in line to get the overall behind those guys. And then him and Jordan Smith got together, so then Smith crashed and fell backwards, and then AP slid out and fell back as well, so that moves Sexton up to 3rd, and then before you knew it, McElrath was in 5th, and 12-1 potentially winning the overall was no longer good enough. Now you needed a 3-5 from McElrath, and that was in line to win the overall for a long time. He was in that position, and that was going to be the overall winning position. Fortunately, to make the math a little bit easier and to kind of solidify home a great victory for him, McElrath was able to slice and dice his way forward, got Alex Martin on. Okay, so back to the front. I have to go back to the front. Amart had that thing won, and the reason I say that is because it looked like with a couple laps to go, Ferrandis was starting to get winded. Like he made a couple last, attempts at like, okay, if I go get Martin one more time, that's probably about all I've got left in me. He made a few mistakes, and then he made one big mistake before the finish line with the 2 lap board coming out. And it just so happened that right after the finish line, Martin swaps down, has a big flying W, cartwheels, and fortunately doesn't get hurt, lands on his feet, oddly enough too. But he gets up and he's like throwing his arms in the air like, golly, what the heck, did it again, and coughed up a win because Ferrandis took over the lead and then didn't look back, and he kind of cruised that thing home. But I felt gutted for Martin, because even though he wasn't in line to win the overall anymore, it's like, man, he's been so close to winning one of these dang motos, leading so much of the race just to crash or have late race fades and throw it away, and he had that thing won because I think Ferrandis was at his limit. I think he wasn't going to be able to push much further beyond that, and like I said, it just looked like after they went over the finish line, I was like, you know what, I think Martin's got... Oh, nope, no, he's down. So, unfortunate for him, he ended up getting up still in 2nd, and like I said, this is when McElrath came into his late race charge, got Martin with 3 corners to go for 2nd. So he ended up going 3-2, which is, like I said, a much nicer looking overall score than 3-5 or whatever, some crazy score out there. But so that's still McElrath's first career outdoor win, which is great. That's awesome for him. And home track. Actually, the first time I ever saw Shane McElrath's name was like a 250B onboard camera from like 2000, and I want to say this was like 2012 maybe. He's on some sort of privateer Honda team and wasn't really well known or anything like that. And it was a 250B onboard camera of him at Muddy Creek. So kind of comes full circle from my perspective, because I didn't know much about McElrath before seeing that video, and then obviously he rode well that day that I saw it, and then gets the ride with TLD KTM and has won some Supercrosses, but just never put it together outdoors, and now finally has an outdoor win to his credit. So kudos to McElrath. That was a good ride. He rode really well both motos. Kind of had to charge to get to his positions. Like, he didn't start up front and fade to those positions. He went forward to get a 3-2. So I felt like it was deservedly so, because everybody else was riding chaotically and not being consistent, and he was the consistent one of the bunch. So awesome to see him pick up that win. And Ferrandis, with an 11-1, got 2nd overall. And I believe the final step of the podium was Plessinger, but I could be wrong, because I think he went 8 or 9-4, 8 or 9-5. I don't know, something like that. I mean, it was a wild day. I don't think you're going to see overalls that split up. It totally was a product of Plessinger crashing out of the lead in the first moto and not getting up farther than he probably could have, and J-Mart winning the first moto but then crashing out of the second one, Amart crashing in the first one. yeah, like I said, it's such a weird day. Like the scores, the riding, the everything is so much of a weird event to watch. But like I said, hopefully J Mart's okay, and you know, if he can continue racing in this championship, that's awesome because he's still second in the championship. Amazingly, he's only 23 back of Plessinger. But you know, if he cannot continue this season, just hope and pray that he's, you know, okay moving forward, and he can continue his life normally, if not continue racing dirt bikes normally. So it's a little Muddy Creek wrap-up, synopsis, gameplay, etc. These videos are usually 20 minutes long, so I'm not going to go much longer than it today. You saw the track breaking down very interestingly and unique in this gameplay. A lot more braking bumps and less smooth flowing ruts, which is, like I said, the track crew really went for that kind of a feel to get people to have to change their lines up, which I've had to do a lot of changing my lines up in this video because the track has been beat up since like the first lap I did. But it's fun. It's kind of forces you to think outside the box, like go way out here and even like flat track a little bit. Miss out on these ruts and then throw a whipper tail, land a flat, and somehow land out. But thanks for watching this video. Muddy Creek gameplay. Download the track in the description below if you want to try it out yourself. It's a fun track. Like I said, I put -- road space 10 in my target line and got the road to work. Thanks for watching another video here on Start Your Systems, and hope you guys will tune in every time from here on out. But my name is Kellen, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So long for now.